everyone. It is certainly a pleasure to be among you on a beautiful, beautiful day in this September to honor two amazing, amazing people. I did not have the benefit of intimately knowing the Reds, but I tell you a story, a serendipitous story about history. Earlier this week, which I occasionally do, I don't know how many of you know that the NAACP archives are at the Library of Congress. And so every couple of months, I go to DC, not to, I do a few meetings, try to raise some money and all that other kind of stuff. But I also go and sit 2 or 3 days in the archives of our institution, because I believe as a leader, part of our role is to also look back and understand the history of how we got to where we are, but it also can provide a roadmap on how you can fight today. And so since becoming president of the state conference, because y'all, it hadn't even been a year yet, I said I need to go for a couple of days and I need to sit steeped in the history of this state conference and all of its branches and all of the names and the leaders and everything that have participated in building this state conference to advocate on behalf of Black people and all people of color here in the state of New York. Now, I knew peripheral, I had this event on my calendar, but I didn't, I didn't go with the purpose of looking up the history and information of this. And so as I'm there and I'm going through records and I'm looking at the many of cases that individual people have waged on behalf of our communities for housing discrimination, for public accommodations, for education. And I'm going through all of these records and I see, the state conference was founded around the 30s. Next year we'll celebrate our 90th. 30s, and then I'm getting into the 40s, and I'm looking at the branches that were a part of the state conference then on Long Island and, up here Westchester, and then I see a report from a community of Rye, and they're talking about this the campaign that is being waged regarding housing discrimination, and that there is this couple named the Reds that are waging this lawsuit, that are challenging the housing discrimination in the community. And I'm looking at my phone, I was like, that sounds familiar. But again, I'm not doing the direct correlation of, oh yeah, this is the event you go into, right? So I'm going through the report and then I'm like, okay, well, let me go through and see and there are the minutes and the reports from the meetings and the rallies and all those things or whatever. And I'm reading through and I'm like, this is in my email somewhere. Let me look. And I looked up the name and I was like, oh, this is the event I'm going to. And so to be in the Library of Congress and reading not just the account, because it's one thing to hear the story, to watch the documentary, but to go through and look at the minutes, to go through and look at the planning, to go through and look at the petitions and the names of the people who are aligning themselves to do the work, to challenge the status quo. There is a reason why there is always this assault on history. There is a reason why there is always an assault to tear down markers, to tear down names, to not say the bad part of history, because it is empowering. Because if you can go through those minutes and see those petitions and see names and see addresses and see those things, it says that, oh no, this was people coming together. This wasn't just one isolated event. This is people planning and organizing. So when it is only Miss Ingram and Miss Marion, and then it grows into 3 or 4 people, and then you end up in an event, you see that yes, it started off as 2 or 3 people organizing and planning, but at the end of result, you get success because those 2 or 3 people gathered together and decided to chart history. And that is empowering to a generation like mine, to a leadership like mine that says, I will go back and study and understand how this came to be, so that when we're fighting the cousins of the bigotry from the past, the children of the past, that we have a roadmap of how we win. So it is important to have the marker, to have the name that someone can look up 20, 200 years from now and say, who were the Reds? And to see, oh, they started out as a couple trying to find a place for home to start and raise their family, and ended up resulting in creating, bringing down the structural barriers of racism. And so whatever racism or bigotry that they may face in the future, that they have a roadmap to how they can challenge that in the future. That is why the history and the markers are important. And NAACP, it is important for us to be renewed by those stories, so that when we are despondent that only 12 people came to the organizing meeting or the event, that is more than enough to start the campaign, to start the organizing, continue the work that we have to do in order to make change. You don't need everybody to be there at the same time. Everybody will claim they were there when it's successful. That's why you got the record. So thank you for the invitation to provide that full circle moment of how telling the story, providing the marker, and making it plain is important to inspire future leadership and present leadership for us to continue the work. And let me just say, Ms. Ingram, I need y'all to have a show. Because y'all are, both of you together are amazing and inspiring. Thank you so much. And thank you to the families. Thank you to the families and to the spirit of your parents. I know you're gonna, you get it all the time, right? But they laid the marker, they laid the history for us to be able to follow, and we thank you for sharing them with us, because I know it isn't easy. I come from a family as well that we got to share our parents and share our cousins and our aunties with the rest of the community and the rest of the world, and it's not always easy. But thank you for your continued dedication to their memory and to their work. Thank you.